And we are live. What's up, y'all? What's up,
We're
Jared
back.
in the chat? Big day in the Nets world. Brooklyn strong. Brooklyn got stronger. Still can get a little bit stronger. That's a Kanye West song. I know a bunch of y'all are out there waiting for Drizzy to drop.
That's
The
tomorrow,
Sixth
right?
God is watching. KD is out there doing promo for Drake tonight at 12. You can listen to Drake's album. So it's on the way. It's on the way. But big day for us with the Paul Millsap signing. Honestly, I kind of went to sleep on Paul Millsap.
I mean, we talked about it on the last pod. We weren't.
Yeah, I think it was one of the last things we said. And I thought the Warriors were an option, the Bulls. So I kind of looked at it as it's going to be his choice. In Marks we trust. He makes these guys choose Brooklyn. You know, shout out to Luis Scola. Once they win, they'll get everyone. All right, let's get into this, man. Let's see. I should tweet this out from my account. Right now, the Talking Nets Twitter is down, unfortunately. Jethawk in the chat, what up? But luckily I have a decent amount of followers to blast this out to, so we will do that right now. Tweet. Nets fans, join us. We're live. And I don't want to use that. I want to take an image from YouTube. You know, this pre-show stuff, I read all the comments. You're not supposed to read all the comments as a creator, as someone that does content, but I remember reading a comment. Someone watched the show and they were like, it takes too long for them to start. I'm out. And I'm like, all right, then be out. I'm doing this on my own, bro. There's two guys running this. If it takes too long for you, please go do better things with your time. All right. I always put the confirmation. And I need to start recording in GarageBand. What the hell? Oh, I see what happened here. Mets fans. That's what I'm on. Pull up. We're live. Okay. Episode 122. Nets sign Paul Millsap. Wow. Did I spell that wrong? I did. I put an extra D on there. That's stupid. Let's see. I can edit that. Maybe I can't edit that in the title. Let's see. Edit. Save changes. I think it changed. Okay. I appreciate the patience. Just trying to get a couple more people in here. 15 people in here, and we are about to go live in the next minute.
It's a big news day. Don't want to miss this Nets news. We haven't had a lot of big offseason news days since, the draft, really.
So let's get it, man. Lights, camera, action out here. Got a couple voicemails, too. If you guys in the chat want to call the voicemail now and just get in the queue, there's 3 voicemails, but if you call now, you can get on the show while we're live. It's 201-870-0461. Call the voicemail. I got my phone hooked up to the Bluetooth. I'll play it, and you'll be heard live here, and then it'll also be recorded on the actual pod. So, am I good on GarageBand? Testing. Mic check, test. Yes, I'm good on GarageBand. I am now recording on GarageBand. I think we're all
set to get this thing moving, Keith.
Yeah, 410. That's fine. Okay, here we go. Talking Nets, episode 122. Paul Millsap signed today. And we also got news that LaMarcus Aldridge is cleared to return to basketball activities. He's got some unfinished business in Brooklyn. Man, the Brooklyn Nets just keep getting stronger. The rich get richer. We're going to talk about some other things in the Nets world. We had a few things that happened between last week's show and now, but we're not going to bury the lead. You guys want to talk Paul Millsap. You want to talk LaMarcus Aldridge. You want to talk the best lineup ever constructed, the best roster ever constructed going into an NBA season? Talking Nets. Let's get it. Brooklyn, we go hard. We go hard. Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talking Nets, episode 122 on 9/2/21. Drizzy's about to drop. The game is in a frenzy. Six God is watching. Kevin Durant is tweeting out owls and 666. Certified Lover Boy is on the way tonight, but you don't care about that. This is not a hip-hop pod. Well, maybe you care about that because hip-hop and basketball go hand in hand. This is Talking Nets. Big day in the Nets world. Big day for Nets fans to just poke our chests out a little bit as the whole NBA is on notice, and they should be very afraid. Scary hours just got bumped up to the scariest hours. This team is constructed to win a championship. In Marks, we trust somehow. Sean Marks upgraded this team, and we got better going into 21-22 season. Hudson Flynn, can you say hello to the people?
Man, how we doing? I'll tell you, I am excited for Drake to drop because when he dropped the music video last time, the one with Kevin Durant, right? We got the iconic photo of Drake playing defense looking scared. So I'm hoping, obviously it's not the music videos aren't dropping tonight, but when they do drop, I hope we're going to get some more screenshots we can use on the social media. But no, this is exciting. I know last week we talked some about Paul Millsap, whether he would move the needle. We've been talking about LaMarcus Aldridge since we heard that he might be making a return to basketball. And now those two things have kind of come to fruition. So I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about it. And I'm definitely excited to make some noise about it because, even though these signings aren't, the big three, the big four, even the big five, they matter. They move the needle, even if it's just a little bit. And man, I'm excited to see what they can do, what they can bring to this team, in their old age. Obviously, we don't know about Aldridge yet, but Millsap, I'm excited.
Paul Millsap is 36, going on 37. Paul Millsap has played in the league 15 years. Might be wrong with that. Either way, he can still play. He fits a need, and he's the veteran presence that we need on this team. If you're looking at this team like we lost Jeff Green and we lost that veteran presence, well, boom, there you go with Paul Millsap. A lot of people are saying the Nets and the Nuggets swapped. They traded. Now, it wasn't a trade because the Nets are paying Paul Millsap, I'm pretty sure, the vet minimum on this one-year deal. And then, the Nuggets got to pay Jeff Green, I think 2 years, $10 million. But either way, a power forward like Paul Millsap, a veteran presence, an older guy like that who we've seen do it, an all-star, it just bolsters this team. But if anybody is listening that hasn't really watched this game or hasn't watched him play, it's not like Paul Millsap is the piece to put us over the top. Here we are in September making this signing. It's kind of late. Hudson, what are you thinking about realistically what Paul Millsap can contribute? I think last year he averaged like 9 points, 4 or 5 rebounds. It isn't like, okay, now we definitely won the championship. I think we are still going to win the championship, but I don't want anyone to be confused like, oh, this is the piece that puts the Nets over the top.
Look, I'll tell you what he can do is he can contribute more than DeAndre Jordan, whose status with the Nets we will talk about later this episode. He can contribute more than Reggie Perry. If Reggie Perry even remains on the Nets, he can contribute more than Day'Ron Sharpe, right? It's just moving the needle. It's just raising the floor just a tiny bit so we don't have to when injuries come, and they will come because they always do, because the league does not want the Nets to succeed. And so the basketball gods have to even things out. We're going to need players that are deeper on to step up. We all remember the Alize Johnson game last year against the Utah Jazz when the Nets had everybody off the game and we were off injury. We were starting like Chioza, Alize put up 20-20. It was a ridiculous game, but we're going to need those lower on the bench players to contribute. And Paul Millsap is exactly that kind of player that can contribute. He's someone that's reliable, that's steady, that can put up reasonable amounts of points, reasonable amounts of rebounds with reasonable defensive efficiency on a regular basis when the Nets need it. And they're going to need it at some point. These are insurance policies. We saw the Nets lose in these playoffs because we didn't have enough insurance policies. We didn't have a James Harden insurance policy. We didn't have a Kyrie Irving insurance policy. We had to put all of our chips in number 7's basket, which I'll tell you is probably the best one you can put it in the league, but it wasn't enough. And now we have a situation where, hey, okay, let's say we lose Kevin Durant. We don't have a massive gaping hole, or at least as massive of a gaping hole as we would have had we been forced to put in someone like Daron Sharp or Alizé or one of those types of players. So while this isn't the move that makes the Nets the runaway championship contenders, it's the move that makes sure that the Nets are safe. And right now, that's all we're looking for. We're looking for getting through the 82-game regular season and getting to the playoffs without any major injuries so that our players, our stars, can do exactly what they were built to do.
It's a depth piece. I can't even say it. It's a depth piece, right? You watched the Nets last year. KD put the team on his back, but everyone in the world knew it was just KD or nothing. It was either KD scores 50, 40 points, or we got nothing. And when Harden went down and Kyrie went down and Jeff Green also got hurt in the playoffs last year, we were looking for another scoring option. We were looking for another veteran that's been there. We had guys like Blake Griffin step up when Joe Harris wasn't really being Joe Harris. We got a good game out of Uncle Jeff when KD went off. But, like, Paul Millsap is another solid veteran depth piece. And the fact that he's out there this late and he comes to Brooklyn, it just shows you that this organization has done what they set out to do. This is the most attractive destination for players trying to win a ring. This is the most attractive destination for players late in their career. We have a top medical team, one of the top training staffs, medical staffs in the NBA. We're in New York. Brooklyn is a center of the universe. It's a mecca. You can get good food, entertainment, clothing, whatever, right there in Brooklyn. And man, I'm so pumped to go to Barclays Center. I was like looking up stuff today, like what games can I get to? I live a little bit closer now. It's cold outside. I felt the like chill in the air in this morning, and I started thinking football. But really, I was like, nah, it's getting cold, and pretty soon we're going to be watching some basketball. So the Nets get stronger. The Nets bolster their team with Paul Millsap. And I think I read somewhere that this is a reunion, right? This is a reunion between Kyle Korver and Tiago Splitter. They played together in Atlanta. And the NBA is based off of relationships. We've seen this through our team with the Suns relationships. It's about who you know, who you're comfortable with, who you want to be around. And I think those guys probably played a part in it. And then, you know, talking about relationships and reunions, you got LaMarcus Aldridge here. It's a segue into talking about him and the news that Shams broke today, that he's cleared and he's got unfinished business here. He chose to come here last year. He reunites with Patty Mills if and when he decides to do that. I don't think it's confirmed yet, but I'm pretty sure everyone's saying Brooklyn is the front runners to sign him, and now that he's cleared, that's where he wants to be. So you reunite him with Patty Mills, who he played with in Portland, and he also played in San Antonio, and it's one big happy family. I cannot wait to see this team gel and mesh and get ready for this season. We're back to 82 games. Hudson Flynn, what are your thoughts about LaMarcus Aldridge being cleared? First off, the number one thing is that he's healthy and that he is able to play basketball. We got that scare last year, and we were actually doing a live event during the Lakers game, which was the last game he played. And then we did the Media Squared Yes Network Brooklyn Nets magazine thing, and we had to talk about Aldridge because he basically had to hang it up. Now he's back. He's healthy. What are you thinking about his chances to help the Brooklyn Nets win a championship?
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful he stays healthy. I really am. That's got to be my number one concern. It should be all of your number one concerns. You know, regardless of what he's capable of bringing on the court, you do not want to have another injury scare. Like he said, I remember watching the Lakers game, and we were like, yeah, he's a step slow. I forget. He got dunked on by someone random in that game. And
Drummond, I think, was giving him the business.
It was Drummond. Drummond gave him the business, and he just didn't look right. So we're going to probably be able to tell within these first couple of games whether he looks right. But if we get the LaMarcus Aldridge that we got in that Hornets game when he first got his first start, I believe, for the Nets last year, that's another level. That really was last year. Just for a couple of games, it was the Death Star complete. And at this point in his career, with his injury history, with the way the Nets treat players that have injuries and the way they do ramp-up periods and the way they do load management and minute management, I'm not going to expect too much. I don't want to expect too much going into it, but at the same time, if he can bring even 3/4 of what he brought last year, it's just going to be such a huge impact. Because right now, if we're looking at who the Nets have on the roster in terms of a true center that we can put in there and feel confidence in, it's not a very deep list, right? We want to be confident in Claxton, but even I wouldn't say he's the true center the same way an Aldridge could be, just with the way Aldridge is built and the way Clax is built. We have DeAndre Jordan, who may or may not be on the Nets in the next coming weeks. We hope he isn't, because he's not going to get minutes, because he's washed, he's done, he's collecting DNPs. And, we have Day'Ron Sharpe, who's not ready. So in terms of, raising our floor, I think this is another one of those signings. If it happens, obviously, it's all still unconfirmed. Sham says the Nets are the front runners. Everyone seems to agree with that. But I think it can be good. I hope it's good. I think that there's a really good chance that things work out well in the Nets' favor. But Nets fans can't get upset when maybe he's not playing all these minutes and maybe he's not getting the run late in games, after playing 15, 20 minutes. You can't be upset at that, because he's got his heart to worry about. The Nets have his longevity to worry about. And, at the end of the day, that stuff has to come, first, second, and third with this guy. So I'm excited for it. I'm happy for him. I think that he's going to come to the Nets. I hope he does, because he was great on the Nets in limited action last year. But don't have your expectations too high. And if he doesn't meet those expectations, even if they are low, don't be too upset.
We're Nets fans, baby. I mean, this is the best Nets fans know this is the best Nets team we've ever seen on paper going into a season. So how happy or sad can you get? Like, we are blessed. This is actually ridiculous. And if those guys come back, just, LaMarcus Aldridge, that 21 jersey's waiting for you. Paul Millsap, that number 4 jersey's waiting for you, because Chioza is a Warrior now. Everybody talked about this front court. The Nets don't have any bigs. Who are the Nets going to sign? Are they going to go after Miles Turner? Are they going to go after, all these different guys through the NBA free agency and the draft? And look where we end up at. Like, Sean Marks was not done. We got Millsap signed. Aldridge is most likely on the way. You pair those two with Nick Claxton, which there was some talk on Nets Twitter about, these guys are going to, block Nick Claxton. I don't think that they block Nick Claxton. He's by far the youngest big we have. Well, Day'Ron Sharpe, but he's the youngest proven big we have as far as NBA minutes. And I wouldn't even say he's proven, because we didn't go to him in the playoffs. So he's still got something to prove in his 3rd year in the league. But I think he still will get his minutes. You saw him working out with Harden. I think that there's a plan for Nick Claxton to develop and mature. And it is great for him to develop and mature with guys like Paul Millsap and LaMarcus Aldridge. Clax is going to play. He's going to be a factor on this team. But who we hope will not be a factor on this team, who we saw him learn from last year one DeAndre Jordan. We got to talk about DeAndre Jordan. This is like the never-ending saga. Some people said, DeAndre's not going anywhere because he's friends with KD. He's friends with Blake. He's friends with Kyrie. No, he's a waste of a roster spot. He got straight up DNP. So some reports came out this week about DeAndre Jordan being traded or a buyout, and the Lakers came up. And if the Lakers want to take DeAndre Jordan off our hands, that'd be lovely. I saw they signed Rondo, or Rondo is going to actually sign with them. They're just, getting the oldest guys in the league with names. That's not going to bode well for an 82-game season back to the regularly programmed NBA season. But if they want DeAndre Jordan, please help us out. Please take him off our hands. Hudson, what are you thinking about our chances this week or next week or before camp? I just think it'll happen before camp, of getting DeAndre Jordan and his money off the books, off the roster, and moving on from that experiment. Yes, he was here in 2019 to help us make that clean sweep, but bro just never really panned out as a Brooklyn Net, and that's okay.
Yeah, we'd be paying an assistant coach $10 million a year for the next 2 years, right? And I don't want to diminish the role that he does play as someone who's a good teammate. Everyone seems to love him, only positive things. I mean, the big three vouch for him like no one's business, right? But we are building a basketball team. We're building a championship level basketball team. And we can't have that much money on the books for someone who's not going to contribute in the way that we need to have someone contribute, right? So it's just, I don't know if it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to leave, but I really hope it is. I really hope it is, because that much money just collecting DNPs is a stain on the Nets' legacy, but it's also something that can hurt us going down, because every time that he was played, he was even worse than getting DNPs, and we were praying for DNPs. So there's really no positive outcome with him on this team, right? And if he goes to the Lakers, I think that would be hilarious. I really, really, really think that would be so funny, because all of this talk about them collecting the old Infinity Stones, DeAndre Jordan would complete that saga, and seeing him in the gold and purple, it would really make my day. But I just hope he's gone. I hope he goes anywhere but the Nets. And I don't say that to be rude or anything. He seems like a great guy, but his time as a contributing member of this team is well past, and it seems like everybody knows that.
I think everybody knows that, but I'm in this chat right now. I'm looking at the chat, and let's see. Can I put this on the screen? Jay from BK says Nets aren't the front runners. LA has been practicing for weeks now in Brooklyn. What does that mean?
Man, I did not know we were giving clowns attention. Yikes.
Nah, yeah, we're gonna give the chat some attention, just because I'm like, we're talking Nets Lakers, and that's what this narrative is been. And it seems the last 2 years it's like everybody wants Nets Lakers, but y'all gotta chill. I don't know if you're from BK and you're not seeing that the Nets have a way better roster than the Lakers right now and a way better chance. I don't know. Let's take another question from the chat that I want to address. Why is the Twitter account suspended? Oh, man. So Twitter is changing. I don't know if you guys have noticed. Twitter started like super follows. They took down fleets, and they're rolling out new stuff, and they're changing the platform. And one of the main things on this free platform where you can build a brand, you can build a business, you can come on and create a following and build an audience, is that it's free. And since it's free, they can pull the rug from under you at any time without telling you they're going to pull the rug from under you necessarily. Now, we got a couple warnings, and I don't know if you guys remember, but during the season when we would win a game, we would play the dancing videos with KD dancing in the hallway, Kyrie dancing in the classroom, just good vibes after the game. It was just something that, you could expect from us. And we use Pop Smoke Dior, and that song is a song that we chose because it's just a bop, and it's a Brooklyn rapper. The team plays in Brooklyn, but Universal Music Group is on our ass. They sent like 6 or 7 notices from the DMC, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Just some nonsense, man. And they basically banned our account, suspended our account, because there were multiple violations. I didn't get a chance to go in there and sweep that stuff. I didn't go in there and clean the account because they locked it. But as soon as we get it unlocked, we'll be back up. And hopefully that happens before training camp starts, at the worst, before the season starts. But we're working on it. John Boy Media is working on it. I've been working on it, trying to reach out to Twitter. If anybody watching or listening to this has a connection at Twitter, let me know if you can connect us to them. I have seen, just go to @TwitterSupport on Twitter and go to their tweets and replies and look at the amount of people complaining about their Twitter account being suspended, asking for help, trying to get in touch with someone. The feds did a sweep, and I bet you they took out thousands of accounts, and we happen to be one of them, which is not cool, because we built that account from 0 to about 14,000 followers in 2 years less, and we need that to do what we do out here. But yeah, I wanted to address that on the pod. It was something that I was trying to keep quiet, but the secret is out now. Terrible MVP Jack says Nets are easily the best team in the league, LOL, in response to people talking about the Lakers. And now we got some voicemails. I want to play these voicemails. If you guys are watching and you want to be heard on the pod, the voicemail is 201-870-0461. We've got a few voicemails, some that I screened, some that I didn't. Let's play the first one right now, and then that will take our conversation elsewhere.
All right, so I feel like this season is going to be more of the chip on our shoulder. I mean, coming up short in the second round, I think that's going to play a big part in our team's motivation. And I feel like a normal season would have had a low management, had of sit players, Kyrie, but I feel like this year is going to be, everyone's going to want to play every game. It's going to be MJ, it's going to be Kobe. They're not going to want to sit out. Even Kyrie, they're all going to want to play every game back to backs just to get that chip off their shoulder and take home the championship. And that's my opinion.
I agree. I like that opinion. I like that thought process. I like, let's see, someone said Nets Daily just tweeted something. I can't check it right now, but I like that, right? Because we came up short last year. We kind of, were limping at the end there, and we took that series to 2-0. Everybody's thinking we're beating the Bucks. They come back and beat us in 7 games and then go on to win the championship. I've said on this podcast multiple times, the universe wasn't ready for a big three like the one we put together with KD, Harden, and Kyrie. We didn't get those guys at full strength. If we had Harden at full strength with KD, we probably advance. So I think there is more motivation. I think there is a chip on all of these guys' shoulders, the organization's shoulders, the fan shoulders, because we were all sold that we were going to win it last year. We were all sure that we were going to win it. We dealt with COVID stuff. We dealt with KD's hamstring. We dealt with the media attacking Kyrie every chance that they got. We dealt with the trade, the James Harden trade. When that happened, some of the fans were, torn apart by that, saying, hey, we leased our future. But what are you thinking about that voicemail about the Nets having a chip on their shoulder? And I think that changes how we come into the season. If we win the finals last year, we come into the season as the big bad Nets. We're still the big bad Nets, but we have unfinished business. Everybody in the world knows, it's time to bring a chip back to New York.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the way I see it is the reality is that the Nets are a better team in better circumstances. So regardless of a chip on their shoulder, which I do believe that they have, but I do believe that, to be in the NBA, to be a player at that level, you are constantly walking around with a chip on your shoulder, regardless of the situation. I think that the Nets are just better and are in a better situation. The addition of Patty Mills cheers up our point guard depth, right? We have made all these little small, on the fringes moves that have really just pushed them into a better position. Combine that with the fact they were playing an 82-game season. It's not as condensed, normal off season, whole season of James Harden, right? All of these things are really coming together in the Nets' favor. And, whatever it is, whether it's a chip on their shoulder, whether it's circumstances, whether it's a better constructed team, this, that, or the other, I honestly don't think it really matters more than just the Nets are going to be winning, right? And for regardless of why they're winning, they're going to be winning. They're going to go out, they're going to win 60+ games this year because they are just the same. What's the quote from the old Kanye Kobe ad? Like the same monster,
animal, but a different
the same
beast?
animal, but the difference beast. That's what I think the Nets. That's the vibes I think the Nets are bringing this year. And that's what I think. That's just how I think it's going to go. Right, whole off season, things are just kind of moving back towards normalcy, and they definitely are with the way the NBA season is going to be laid out. So I think that's all just going to really fall into the Nets' hands in terms of their regular season. Now into the playoffs, whole season in between, but I wouldn't bet against the Nets.
No, this team is way better already on paper than we were going into the season last year. We didn't have Harden. And then even when we got Harden and people were like, they trade away all their depth. And then we got into the playoffs and that actually was true because we had nobody coming off the bench to contribute. Man, I need access to this training camp. LeBron was out there tweeting about a Hard Knocks. How do we get a Hard Knocks for the NBA? Get a Hard Knocks for the Brooklyn Nets. Maybe the Brooklyn Nets do it. We need to see this training camp. This is going to be one of the most competitive training camps in the league, maybe ever. There's so much talent on the team. Like, I want to see their practices. All right, next voicemail from our guy, Spen from Fireside Nets. I think this is Spen. Yeah, Spen called in.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Spen Harris from Englewood here, big Brooklyn Nets fan. I wanted to know who you guys think is the most important Net outside the big three headed into the 2021-2022 season. All right, look forward to getting an answer.
Go for it, Hudson. Who do you think is the most important net outside of the big three going into the 2021-2022 season?
Okay, I got two answers. One's a cop-out, one isn't. I'm going to go with the non-cop-out answer first, but it's not my real answer. Joe Harris, in terms of the players. I think it's Joe Harris, right? If we can get regular season Broadway Joey, no one can stop the Nets. There's a stat that we always like to talk about. The Nets were like undefeated in games where Joe Harris scored 20 or more points. Led the league in three-point percentage and shooting. Led the league during the regular season. Led the league in catch and shoot three-point percentage during the regular season. All of these things during the regular season. We need him to show up in the playoffs. We need him to do his thing. We need him to bounce back from what really was a horrendous playoffs. My cop-out answer, though, is the one that I really believe in. That's Steve Nash. I think it's Coach Nash, easily.
That's
actually.
not a player.
I know. That's why it's a cop-out answer. Most important Brooklyn Net person, player, man in the organization, person involved with the Nets is Steve Nash. And I just think that because all of the talk around him, he's had a whole year. He's got this amazing coaching staff. There were some problems that he had last year that we can't really move past in terms of the way his rotations work, the way the end of game sequences ended up playing out. We had a lot of wasted opportunities at the end of games. And so he's going to need to have that sophomore jump, not a sophomore slump this season as a coach.
Yeah, man, I would say Joe Harris, but I feel like Joe Harris is the answer because he went missing, right? When you say, who's the most important player outside of the big three? Well, it's a guy that we were looking to in the playoffs last year that didn't show up, Joe Harris. But I don't want to put that on Joe Harris. One, I think Joe Harris is going to still be the same Joe Harris this year. And two, I think Joe Harris is working and ready. And when he gets his opportunity again in the playoffs this year, it's going to look a little bit different and he will shine. I'm going to go with Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin came to us and people were saying he couldn't dunk anymore. People were saying his knees were shot. People were saying we weren't sure what Blake Griffin we were going to get. We got pretty good Blake Griffin. We got at times what looked like Blake Griffin in his prime. Now with a full offseason to work with the Brooklyn Nets medical team, to work with these players, being in Brooklyn longer, if Blake Griffin can still be a not superstar, but play at a high level and be a contributor, look out, man. I mean, we have so many good players on this team. I'm not going to say someone like Paul Millsap or LaMarcus Aldridge, guys that are over 35, should be it. But I think Blake is like 31. If Blake can actually come through and contribute on a night-to-night basis, stay healthy, play tough defense like he does, draw charges, get loose balls. You guys know how Blake plays. Like if he can do that consistently through an 82-game season, who's beating the Nets? Like it's going to be laughable. So let's go to the next voicemail. And I see, you guys talking in the chat. I do want to keep you guys in the loop as well. I saw someone said, Cohen said, Akiva Cohen said they had the Hard Knocks for Brooklyn. It was on NBA TV called The Association. I love that show. That was cool. I think the Celtics also got an association and maybe one other team. But yeah, they should bring it back. And I see a couple more things in the chat that I'll come back to. But if you guys have questions, throw them in the chat and we'll get to them. Voicemail number 3 coming up next.
What's up, Keith McPherson, Hudson Flynn? Hey, let's go. Talking Next Best Podcast. W signing from Sean Marks today. It's our Marks we trust. Scary Hours, best lineup ever created. I'm doing another voicemail because I didn't know my last one went in. And W Podcast.
It's not the music videos aren't dropping tonight, but when they do drop,
and he was
W
listening.
Podcast.
He's listening to. I think he's whoever that was. You didn't leave your name. I'm guessing you might be in the chat. What up? W Podcast. Of course, W Podcast on a day like this. We were trying to record on Wednesdays. I'm glad we pushed it because we lost the Twitter account. I was like, let's give it another day. But we waited and we get news to talk about instead of, reaching and grasping for anything to talk about. So that's solid. You guys got to call and be like, yo, what's up? This is such and such from wherever you're from. And then that's a way to shout you guys out. All right, another voicemail. Let's see. This is a short one. Bro, I hate when this happens. I just played it on the Bluetooth.
We got Ryan in the chat. That was who called in. He just commented.
Oh, that was Ryan. What up, bro? Appreciate the call. All right.
Man, I'm so hyped we got Paul Millsap, man. Shit crazy. Can't wait to get LaMarcus Aldridge next. I'll be back in business. That's what.
Nets world, baby. It's just a good feeling, right? As Nets fans, we went through so many off seasons and years where it's like, oh, like we have to settle for who's coming here, or like, okay, we'll take them, or even in the year we got Katie and Kyrie, we were like, yeah, give us Tobias Harris. So now that we're winning, now that we are the destination that everybody wants to be at, we're at the top of the NBA. It's good times. It's a great time to be a Nets fan. So you guys queue up stuff in the chat, and we're going to run through the notes that we had before the big news broke about what's going on with your Brooklyn Nets. I don't know if you guys saw our announcer. Why can't I remember his name? Olivier Cedra. He's on NBA 2K. I watched his little video yesterday talking about how he became a Brooklyn Nets announcer. It's dope. But Kyrie, got to go back to our Kyrie talking Nets, a.k.a. we support Kyrie. Last week when we recorded, we missed this. Kyrie is always doing good in the community, and we always like to highlight that. Well, last week, he surprised students at the Red Cloud Indian School and Pine Ridge High School. He visited them and took them to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation last Wednesday when we recorded. Kyrie is consistently tapped in with the Indian community because you've seen all of his stuff. I'm pretty sure his mom was part Indian. I don't know if
I believe
I don't know exactly I don't know exactly the term. Yeah. Indian is a tough term to use because you could actually be like Native American. That's the better term to use versus Indian, like India. But shout out to Kyrie, always doing things like this that you don't see the average NBA player doing, but never actually getting all of the credit for it. Where else was Kyrie seen? At his camp with Carmelo Anthony and Karis LeVert. What I love about the Nets, bro, is we just consistently see pictures of these guys getting shots up. I saw a side-by-side this week of Jason Tatum working out and Luka Doncic smoking hookah. And they were like, oh, look at Tatum working. Look at Luka smoking hookah. And someone wrote, if you don't document yourself working out, they just think you don't. All of these guys work out. And what you see from the Nets is these guys get shots up all the time, wherever they are, every day. We just saw a picture of James Harden and KD. They're in Mykonos, Greece, and they found a court out there to get up shots. This past weekend was JH Town weekend. I don't know if you guys saw that. James Harden celebrated his birthday in Houston, and he did a women's empowerment brunch. He had a softball game against Travis Scott. He had a full-on concert with, I think, Traded Truth, Don Tolliver, a bunch of different artists performing I saw Nick Claxton was out there. They put that video out. James Harden is a man. He's so deep in the hip hop game. He's like a rapper, basketball player, gonna perform. I think Young Thug, Travis, that's crazy. Did you see that, Hudson?
Yeah, I did. And what I did see and got real excited about was he got at the softball game, he got interviewed. I forget. I think his name is Ari. A guy asked the question. Reporter came up to him and said, with you being hurt last year, what can we expect from you this year? And he said, healthy James Harden, scary, scary hours. And I was like, damn right. Put another scary on there because it's going to be extra terrifying this year for the rest of the league.
It is going to be scary, yo. And I think I was talking to you. Maybe I didn't say it on the pod, but last year, James Harden came in out of shape. Last year was the delayed start. Last year, he didn't come into the season wanting to play for the Rockets. Did he know he was going to get traded to the Brooklyn Nets in January? No. Now he has a full year of actually going into a season and playing somewhere that he wants to be, getting into the best shape of his life, and having that chip on his shoulder that, he was hurt at the end of the last season. He wants to see it all the way through to the finish line this year. When I talk about these guys hooping and always finding courts, we saw KD working out in Houston with TJ Ford. Why is KD in Houston? He's in Houston for James Harden's birthday celebration, but still finding a place to get shots up, still finding a place to get shots up from Houston to Greece with his boy James Harden. This is all bonding and team building. It is going to make this team a stronger and more cohesive unit. Speaking of bonding and team building, a couple jokes got off with this one. Blake Griffin was at the U.S. Open, and the Tennis Channel and the broadcast shouted him out. Blake Griffin, hey, you guys all know Blake, but right next to him was one Joey Buckets, Joe Harris, and they didn't shout Joey out. I think the Brooklyn Nets quote tweeted it, and they were like, yeah, somebody next to him looks familiar too. That's Joe Harris. What did you think about our guys being out in Queens, taking some tennis in, and Joe Harris kind of just with the hat over his face, like not being noticed? Blake Griffin, obviously everybody recognized.
It actually made me remember the Brooklyn Nets season ticket holder event from 2 years ago. It's one of my favorite stories. It was actually the first time I met Keith in person, but I was walking down the stairs in the Barclays Center, and they had like players like milling about, talking to fans and stuff. I dapped up TLC, spoke to him in French. Remember him back in the good old days? And I was walking behind this pretty tall guy. I'm like 6'4", 6'5". And Joe Harris is like taller than me, but not by a lot. And he was walking in front of me just like the most regular white guy, and nobody said a word to him. I didn't even realize it was him until he turned off, and I saw the beard, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. And he was just the most regular looking white guy. I don't even think that was shade. Like, oh, you know, Blake Griffin was this crazy all NBA player for so long. Who's Joe Harris? I legitimately think that they just thought it was some regular ass white guy because he really does look like the most regular white dude I've ever seen.
He's tall, but he's not 7 foot. I think I watched Brooklyn Nets magazine where Joe Harris talked about taking the subway to the game sometimes. That's how you know you can blend in. That's how you know you're a regular looking white dude. If you're playing in the game at the Barclays Center that night and you can take the subway there and no one bothers you, that's a blessing. That's actually cool. That's John Stockton used to kind of laugh about that, like being around Team USA, the dream team. He was able to walk around Barcelona, Spain. Nobody recognized him. They all recognized, Barkley and Jordan, and he was able to be out there with his family. All right, what else do we got from Nets news? 2 things. You got to be vaccinated in NYC. So Shams bomb, a bomb drop where Shams put out this tweet exactly. Unvaccinated NBA players in markets with local requirements such as NYC, the Knicks, the Nets, and San Fran, the Warriors, will not be allowed to enter home arenas or facilities for games or team activities conducted there unless they're approved medically or have a religious exemption. So I don't know if our whole team is vaccinated. We don't have that information, but we do have enough time for the Brooklyn Nets to all be vaccinated, and I suspect that they will be, or that could get tricky at some point. Hudson, any comments on that? You don't have to reply to that. I'm just going through the news that we have in the notes.
First off, like, get vaccinated, but what was it? It was Urban Meyer, right? He came out and he said, making cuts in the NFL, he had to get down to the 53-man roster. He said vaccination status mattered when he was making those cuts, right?
You can't say it doesn't,
the way
bro.
The world's
like,
there, right?
That's what they were saying with Cam Newton. We all know Cam isn't vaccinated, and it's like this. Okay, if you're gonna be a backup quarterback and be in a quarterback room where you could potentially get our other quarterbacks infected or not infected, but you could spread COVID to our other, spread the virus to other people in our building, then why would we run that risk of having you here? Now, they can't come out and say that, no, because everybody is open to their choice and this and that and the other. But I don't know. At this point, bro, like with this vaccination stuff, I just like we're in the last quarter of 2021. It's about to be 2022. In 2020, we had to sit down in the crib and not do what we were used to doing. And people were begging for a vaccine so we could get back to normal. And now we got the vaccine, and this vaccine has been out for 6-7 months. And people still haven't got it. They're like, I need to do some more research. I need to learn more. What else do you need to hear? What else do you need to learn? What else do you need to learn? Someone in the chat goes, Mac Jones isn't vaxxed either. Yeah, well, if that's true or not, I don't know. But he's the starter because he was a 15th overall pick. But this isn't an NFL pod. There's plenty of NFL podcasts and talk for y'all to get. Okay, last but not least, the Brooklyn Nets G-League affiliate. For some of y'all in the chat, the G-League affiliate Long Island Nets are hosting local tryouts. If you guys want to step up and see if you can hoop like that, local tryouts are happening Saturday, September 25th at LIU Brooklyn, Saturday, September 26th at LIU Post. Hey, if you guys think that you can help the Nets win this year, you start there, you make the local team, the Long Island Nets, and then they'll bring you up. So I don't know.
I think all of Nets Twitter should be required to go to that. I think they should be required because, all of NBA Twitter, but Nets Twitter in particular, talk seriously out of pocket about how easy the being in the NBA is. So I think they should just roll up and see what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're gonna get to that eventually. Eventually, there's gonna be somewhere that Hudson and I are invited to hoop, and I'm not worried about our chances. Hudson is 6'3", damn near 6'4". I'm 6'2", played college football. Basketball was never my forte, but I could hoop enough to play in any type of like invite or
We got to set up the game
recreational
with
thing.
Pooch, because my man was like, what he said in the podcast when he was on a little while ago, he was like the number 3 recruit in the state or something like that.
Yeah, nah, Pooch
for a
was
while.
really like that. I bet Pooch could shoot and dribble the ball. I don't even have to see him hoop to know that. We should set up something like that. If we get roped into some type of like Nets Twitter game or some Brooklyn Nets fan game, we got Pooch on our team. But that's all we got. I wanted to ask you, bro, are you good up there at Fordham with the flooding? Like, I live in a brand new place, a brand new apartment, and water was coming through my walls. Like, the maintenance men did work in my apartment today. It dumped rain for a couple hours last night, like I've never seen.
Gushing. It was ridiculous. So, I work in my res hall that I live in, right? So I was like in charge of all these people, and we had like our basement was flooding, water was coming through the walls. There was one of the other halls, like all the basement flooded, like the whole campus, like a lot of the buildings are destroyed. It's ridiculous. I had no idea that we were going to get hit like that. Like, I thought it was just going to be some rain, but we had like the tornado warning came. And then we also, I don't know if you got that. I got it up here in the Bronx. There was a tornado warning, and then there was a flash flood warning, and the tornado warning said get in the basement, and the flash flood warning said seek higher ground.
Yeah.
So I was just standing there. I was like, oh shit, what are we supposed to do?
I was watching the Yankee broadcast, and we kept hearing the like emergency sound, and I didn't know where it was coming from. It was coming from Michael K calling the game in the Bronx.
Michael K got trapped, couldn't get home. Where did he end up? His alma mater. He spent a long time last night, maybe even the whole night, at Fordham, actually. He was on campus.
It's crazy. Shout out to Michael K. From the chat, Nelson asked, Keith, you ever meet KD? Nah, I never met KD. I plan to. The closest I was to meeting KD was at the event that Hudson talked about, the season ticket holders event, where all the players were just like walking around and on the court. That was probably the closest, but stay tuned. You might see me and KD pop up in a little bit. Here's another question from Akiva Cohen. If Aldridge officially signs, do you guys see him and Clack split minutes at the 5? And with Millsap and Blake at the 4, do they split minutes? Or do you think the Nets just roll with the hot hand?
Blake Griffin is going to start at the 5.
Yeah,
Blake Griffin is still going to start at the 5 no matter what.
I just think that it, like, the starters are set. I think that training camp will tell us a lot. And then it's also matchups night to night, depending on who we're facing and how we want to play. Obviously, we're going to play small. It is great now that we have some big bodies. Like, Millsap is like 6'7", 250. Obviously, you guys know the size of Claxton and LaMarcus Aldridge. It's great that we have them in our front court for matchups, for, bigger bodies for them to defend. But I don't think these guys, like, they're not changing our philosophy. They're not changing how we play at the top. Like, this team is going to run through Kyrie, Harden, KD, Blake Griffin, Joe Harris. I think those are the starters. I think Millsap can challenge Joe Harris' spot. We'll see what Joe Harris has, because I saw people saying, like, can Millsap slide in to a starting role potentially? But I don't think the Nets are relying on them. They're depth pieces, they're locker room guys, they're good veterans to have on your side.
Yeah, we're also not like the way the team is constructed. It's not constructed to have a big lineup, right? Like, regardless, like, it's good that we have this size now, but there's someone in the chat that said, imagine thinking Blake is going to start at center. I'm pretty sure that's what the consensus is right now, just considering the way that the Nets play and the way that they're set up. We're going to run a small ball lineup most of the time, just because the way we have spacing, there's no point to have any bigger guys on the floor when you have all three of the big three. You need people who can shoot.
Yeah, another question from JS. Would you start Aldridge or Blake at the 5? Blake is younger. Blake, I think, is going to be the guy until we, it's matchups. So we got to see. We got to see, man. We have to see. This training camp, I'm going to be in tune to everything with these reporters. I know we had Christian Winfield on the pod 2 episodes ago, And he said he's actually going out there. So I'll be watching all his Instagram and Twitter stuff. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be good competition. Someone says, got to get Cam Thomas on the pod. Hey, if you guys have his number, you have his contact, please send it my way. I would love to get Cam Thomas on the pod. I'd love to get any of the players on the pod before they head to San Diego for training camp. All right, that's all we've got. Appreciate y'all in the chat. We got a strong audience in YouTube right now. We also are looking for moderators. If you're interested in being a moderator during the chat, during the live show, just to keep the chat focused on Nets talk, talking Nets, and, keeping everything cool as far as, nobody disrespecting anybody. Big Baller Brand says, who do you think would be the best defensive big against Embiid or AD if it came down to it? On our team right now, I want to say Claxton, man. I need Claxton to take that step. He's bulked up, but they're going to put Blake Griffin there. And then we will see a mix of Aldridge, Millsap. These guys they're going to rotate. They're going to get minutes, man. And it's good to have this depth. I can't call it right now. If we end up in a series with Embiid, like we're going to play against Embiid, we know we're going to play against AD less, but we're going to play against him. We'll see very soon.
Yeah, no one on this team is built to play 40 minutes a night against Embiid or AD. Like, that's just not the way the team is set up. We're going to have a committee. Like, you can't run out LaMarcus Aldridge with his heart condition or 36-year-old Paul Millsap and expect them to be able to be the number one, always on defender against one of those type of players just because they have the size to match up. It's always going to be a by committee approach.
Okay, we got a Seahawks fan in the chat named CWE Bed-Stuy who says, imagine thinking Blake is going to start at center. Imagine thinking that was a ridiculous thought.
But it's also positionless basketball, right? Like, people are in the chat saying that, the same guy said D'Antoni's gone, and another guy said no small ball this year. The team is built to play a certain way, right? And it's built for spacing. It's built for speed. It's built for quick offense, right? That's not like there's no Nets team that exists in this universe where we're going to throw it down to LaMarcus Aldridge in the post and let him work, Like, the same guy said, why draft Day'Ron Sharpe? Day'Ron Sharpe is 19. Day'Ron Sharpe is 19.
And he's going to be a beast. And he was available to us at the 29th pick. That's why you draft Day'Ron Sharpe. All right, let's wrap this thing up, man. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. We're going to get back to the reviews. We're going to get back to reading the reviews. Going to get back to asking for reviews because they help us look good as we get into this next season. Leave us a voicemail. We played the voicemails. Some came in on the spot. You could hear the podcast in the back. Some were already there from, before the show. 201-870-0461. I played 90% of the voicemails. Make sure you follow us at Talking Nets. Unfortunately, the Twitter is suspended for now, but not forever. It'll be back. So follow us on Instagram. Follow us on YouTube, obviously, Facebook, those other 3 platforms until we get our Twitter back. Make sure you check us out at shop.johnboymedia.com. We've got Talking Nets merch on the shop. All you got to do is go to shop.johnboymedia, click podcast merch, hit Talking Nets, and you can step into the Nets world. And that's all we got, baby. Talking Nets, episode 122. Keith McPherson and Hudson Flynn. Hudson, you got anything else?
Nah, close it out.
That's all we've got. Man, I woke up today and felt the chill in the air. I started Googling and looking at stuff, preparing for the Nets season. We will be in the Barclays Center real soon, and I'm pumped for that. And I'll see y'all there. We're definitely going to do a Talking Nets event, get y'all some cheaper tickets so we could all sit together in the Barclays Center and say, let's go Nets. Let's go Nets. Brooklyn. And we out of here. Peace, y'all.